Scene 7, Chris Bracco. 18 months after his birth, Chris was booting up an MS-DOS to play Reader Rabbit, and his first website went live on Angel Fire when he was 12. It was love at first keystroke. He has lived in Portland for the past 18 months and loves the community. He works at Big Room Studios and likes to eat grilled cheese and tomato soup. He hopes you will join him at the Maine Hackers for Doing Good event on June 1st and 2nd. Please stop and ask him about that afterwards. Chris is a Wayne, New Jersey native, ladies and gentlemen. This means he can't help but love gold chains, tanning beds, and opportunities to date John Bon Jovi's cousin. Chris is the office hipster, rides a scooter, collects skinny clothing, cardigans, neo-retro footwear, and has one of the finest animated gift collections in America. Chris has excellent hair, which will become immediately evident as you now warmly welcome him to the podium. Chris Bracco.
I hate my coworkers. Well, I mean, how am I supposed to compete with that? Jesus. All right, here we go. Thank you for having me here. This is me. Ever since I was a kid, I've been addicted to computers, technology, and eventually the web. This is a photo of me at age 2, furiously chugging my formula before a big day at the computer. I was getting ready to boot up MS-DOS from my father's lap to play my favorite computer game at the time called Reader Rabbit. This was the fuel to my fire. Little did I know this machine would both define me and ruin me for years to come. By age 4, I was teaching others how to use our computer too. If you can't already guess, I'm the one on the left being a total drama queen, probably waiting for my cousin Mike to lose so I can show him how it's really done. So let's fast forward to age 12, because that's when I discovered Microsoft Front Page in my middle school's computer lab. I used this horrendous piece of software to make equally horrendous websites, like the one pictured here, which I basically created to fool my classmates into thinking I was decent at skateboarding. It was a lie. In case you don't remember, even some of the most popular websites built over a decade ago were pretty disgusting. You could only do so much with early versions of HTML, CSS, JavaScript. It didn't help that the text editors were terrible and computers were sluggish and very expensive. But desktop computers were the best way to browse the web at the time. Our experience of the web was confined to these clunky 15-inch boxes, so it made sense for web designers to create websites that were optimized for this small fixed viewing space. This fixed viewing area is sort of like a painter's canvas placed on an easel. Like a physical canvas, each computer monitor has a set of fixed dimensions in which web designers must work within to craft their masterpieces. It wasn't long before common design practices like the 960 pixel grid were created to make web design a little less arduous. In the past, web designers would typically hand off their masterpieces to web developers who would write the code necessary to replicate it. Design and development were often separate practices happening as sequential steps in the overall web development process. And then this shit happened. The iPhone, though not the first smartphone, really kick-started the mobile web back in 2007. And today there's just a plethora of new devices, all with access to the web. The old analogy of designing web on a fixed canvas no longer made sense. It's foolish because the canvas is no longer fixed. So those beautiful pixel-precise websites that I slaved over for months were instantly broken on mobile devices. More devices introduced a new set of problems for designers and developers to solve. Websites had to work on all these new devices, whether it be a mobile phone, a tablet, a Kindle, or even a 48-inch conference room display monitor. For the better part of the last 2 decades, design and development were seen as sequential processes, like I said before. First you design and then you develop. As a lone developer in my teenage years, however, I was constantly jumping back and forth between these left and right brain activities, designing and developing websites on the fly. After college and a brief hiatus from web design, I got sucked back in and discovered a concept called responsive design. Developers can now build complex websites that flex, respond, and adapt depending on the device that's being used to view it. That's actually Robbie Kanner's website. So responsive design had a really large impact on the web industry. It totally changed the thought process behind building a website. The days of submitting static Photoshop mock-ups to a developer you've never met are numbered. Building a website today requires designers and developers to work together, closely, and without killing each other. As it turns out, though, designers and developers aren't really that different. Each process is just a means to an end, which is basically to solve a problem. In the web industry specifically, the line between these two professions are starting to blur, and it's an exciting movement for somebody like me. Designing and developing together forces us to think about the constraints of the current technology and about what is most essential to solving the problem. Today, we can build web applications for dozens of devices all at once, which is pretty sweet if you ask me. Now let's finally take a look at some applications that were actually built this way. So last summer, Chris Coyer of CSStricks.com crowdfunded and documented the redesign of his popular blog. Turns out a lot of the design was done by writing code, and the end result was this fully flexible, speedy website with complex layouts and incredible content. Microsoft, a company not really known for innovation these days, redesigned Microsoft.com in late 2012, proving even big business can get it right sometimes. They jumped straight into coding after some preliminary sketches and even built a device lab at headquarters so that an army of developers could test its performance on a zillion different devices. Stephanie Rieger recently built this mini site which promotes Nokia's new web browsers. The site had to work on over 70 different Nokia devices. Those sadistic bastards. To save time, Stephanie built a working live prototype of the site early on, and after some iterations, the end result was a neat, polished mini site for Nokia customers. Now this one was a lot of fun. 2 of my coworkers and I at Big Room Studios whipped this interactive proposal up for Porsche in a few hours. It's a simple radio tuner that flips through the stations as you turn the knob. I designed that knob with HTML and CSS. There's no images, no Photoshop, and it works on a wide range of different devices. So designers and developers working together to solve problems is a shift in the right direction, in my opinion, and I'm grateful to have found my calling so early in life. The web and I have grown together, but we're still pretty scrappy and in our mid-20s. Can you imagine how classy we'll be 10 years from now? I mean, maybe my beard will fill out. I'm excited for what's to come. I don't know about you guys, but have a great future. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.